What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to the Neighborhood Podcast. One of the hosts of the podcast, my name is Kyle Dabra. So in this video, we're going to talk about Bradley Beal testing positive for COVID-19. And unfortunately for Beal, he would not be able to participate in the Tokyo Olympics in about a week and a half due to the COVID test. Now, I imagine for Beal, it has to be a tough situation for him. He had been training for the Tokyo Olympics the last couple months after this past NBA season ended. And to be able to compete for a gold medal going up against the world's best talent is definitely a huge opportunity for him. And it just sucks that we will not be able to see Bradley Beal play for the United States going into the Tokyo Olympics. So when I look at Team USA the last couple of weeks, there has been some dysfunction. They had some troubles in exhibition play against Nigeria and Australia. Now they had beat Argentina a couple days ago, 108-80, and it seemed like they were finally getting into some sort of rhythm. Now this really throws another monkey wrench into the situation because Bradley Beal is one of your top scorers and one of the best players that the United States has to offer. And now with him sidelined due to COVID-19, it leaves Greg Popovich and the coaching staff for the USA to find somebody to replace someone like Beal. And this is Team USA's current roster right now. You could take away Bradley Beal. He will not play. But you have Bam, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, Jeremy Grant, Draymond Green, Drew Holiday, Zach LaVine, Damian Lillard, Kevin Love, Chris Middleton, and Jason Tatum. Now, when you look at a couple of these players, some of these players are still playing in the NBA currently. You have Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday, and Devin Booker. They're all competing in the NBA Finals. And they're just going to transition right into the Olympics once the finals comes to an end. So when I look at this roster will be able to score in the Olympics. The fact of the matter is that Bradley Beal was going to be one of your go-to options, and now with him out of the lineup, who are you going to find to replace him? So this is the list of the top NBA scorers in the NBA this past season. So when you look at Bradley Beal was electric this year. He had the second highest point per game average in the NBA, only behind Steph Curry with 31.3 points per game. And then he was top 5 in scoring overall. He finished 4th with almost 1,900 points scored throughout the entire season last year. Now, when you look at Bradley Beal, he's dynamite. There's no other way to say it. And when you look down this list, some of these guys don't even play for the United States. Luka was top 5, but he's not from the United States. You look at Giannis. Giannis is right behind him, but Giannis is going to be playing for Greece. And there are some of these guys on this list where you could just look down the list and say, like, oh, yeah, like he'd be a perfect replacement. Like someone like Donovan Mitchell or maybe somebody like De'Aaron Fox or somebody. But you have to kind of factor a few things here. And one of them is conditioning. Because Bradley Beal had been training for the Olympics the last couple months after the Wizards did not make the playoffs this year. And a lot of these guys that are on this list, especially some of the younger guys here, I imagine that their training and their overall conditioning is not up to par with where the players who are playing for the Olympics, where their overall conditioning is at currently. So that does kind of thin out your options here. Now, you could look at Bradley Beal as like a three-point specialist because he's an amazing three-point shooter. And that does leave players, someone like maybe De'Aaron Fox, Trae Young, maybe Colin Sexton, because these guys can light it up behind the three-point line. I'm not even counting someone like Kyrie or James Harden because they've already stated that they're not going to play for Team USA in the Olympics. And I imagine for James Harden specifically, he's probably sipping on smoothies, but that's another point for another day. So your options here are limited, but if I had to pick somebody that would be my pick to replace Beal, I believe it would be Trae Young. The reason why is because, A, they're very similar as far as physical appearance goes. Bradley Beal is 6'3", Trae Young is 6'1". Trae Young can light it up behind the three-point line. He did that not only during this past season, but he showed out in the NBA playoffs as well. The Atlanta Hawks got all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals this season and gave the Bucks a run for the money in that Eastern Conference Finals matchup. And when you look at Trae Young, his conditioning is probably up to par with some of the players that are playing for Team USA, because Trae Young only stopped playing about 2 weeks ago. So that Eastern Conference Finals matchup ended in like the first week of July. So he's only really had about a week or two off since he's last played. Some of these guys have been off since May. So De'Aaron Fox, I wouldn't necessarily consider him to be an option because his conditioning is not up to par. Same thing with Colin Sexton. And, maybe you could think of some other 3-point specialists, maybe someone like, I don't know, Duncan Robinson. I can't factor in Klay Thompson because Klay Thompson's coming off of his Achilles injury from last year. And, maybe Jaylen Brown could be an option here. He is a two-way player, but I haven't heard any indication that he'd be willing to play for the United States. So the way that I currently see it is I believe that Trae Young would be the best option to replace Bradley Beal. It's really up to Greg Popovich and the coaching staff to kind of figure that out and try to traverse this situation as best as they can. The Olympics start very soon, so the quicker that they address the situation, the better. And then that way they can integrate whoever they pick into the lineup and hopefully get that person up to speed fairly quickly, and hope that there's not too big of an adjustment period to get their endurance and their conditioning up to what Team USA wants it to be. So it should be interesting to see who replaces Bradley Beal. It's unfortunate for Bradley Beal, like I mentioned. It's a huge opportunity, and whoever does replace Bradley Beal, it's going to be quite an opportunity for them to try to compete for a gold medal in Tokyo. But with that said, you guys, that'll wrap it up for me. If you guys like the video below. If you guys want to support the channel in any way, shape, or form, hit that subscribe button below. Kevin and I definitely appreciate the support wherever we can get it. Once again, thank you guys for just tuning in and watching the video, and we will see you guys later.